Hey everybody, thanks for coming back. So this is the third video in my series where I take a look back at some of my old artwork and show you sort of where I came from and where I'm going, and kind of take a look at some of the old stuff with a little more critical eye and see what kind of lessons I can learn from it, and maybe pass some of those lessons on to other artists who are learning how to make comics and how to draw stories. And hopefully you'll enjoy these. Hopefully you'll see some of it, and maybe you'll laugh a little bit as we look at some of the stuff. It's a little rough. And maybe you'll see some stuff and go, well, that looks pretty cool, or oh, I see where you're going with that. So that being said, we are going to take a look at a series of pages that I did for a story. These were done in the early 2000s. I don't have a year on it exactly, but I know it had to be somewhere between like 2001 to or 2000 to maybe 2002, maybe 2003 at the latest. Again, very early days of the internet. I had started getting onto comic book message boards. There were websites that showed you things about how to make comics. So you'll see I finally at this point have gotten the right paper. I've got the right materials, and started to figure some things out. I have, at this point in time, I have a scanner where I can take the pages and scan them into the computer and show them to people. So things are moving along to a little more modern take. This is also the first time where I'm working from somebody's comic book script. And I don't remember off the top of my head at this point. I think it would be what we refer to as a full script. So what a full script means is the artist or the writer will dictate to the artist how many panels they want on a page, exactly what angles and what elements they want in each panel. So they may tell you things like wide shot, close up, aerial shot, worm's eye view, things that a director of like a movie would tell the camera people on how to position the camera to get the images that they want to tell the story. So I'm pretty sure that this was a full script. I certainly didn't have the wherewithal or the experience at this point to be able to tell the story with the right angles, to make the best story. So I'm pretty sure that's the case. So there we go. So we're going to jump into it. We're going to look at some of these pages and we'll see what we find out. So hang on, I'm going to set those up. Okay. So what you can see is I've had to pull the camera pretty far back, and I can zoom in as I want to make some points on here, on this and that. But the reason is because these are actually drawn the right size. These are drawn on 11 by 17 pieces of paper. This is so this is where I had found a website where I could actually go ahead and order this paper. It was a company called Eon. You can see they've got their logo up there. It is on a Bristol board, but it tells you things like if you want to, all the art must extend to the solid line. If you want to have it reach the outside of the page, there's trim lines. If you want to do a double page spread, so you want to put the two pieces together, you would cut it actually so that it fits together to be the right proportions. All that kind of stuff. So yeah, finally using some professional paper, and I was super excited about that. The pencil, you could tell also, I've gone darker than the last example I gave you, and that again was because I now had access to a scanner, and I've learned that you need some darker pencils for the scanner to pick that up well. If it's too light, you have to make too many adjustments, and it looked weird. So I'm gone through and I've penciled and then lightly and then gone in and really darkened it. So almost like inking with a pencil. So here we have my take on a cityscape. Again, not bad, not crazy. A little flat, right? All the buildings. It is at night, and so a lot of the edges are going to blur together. Um, but none of the buildings are. Everything's at an exact right angle. There's no buildings that are kind of like this direction or this. Um, eh. It works as an establishing shot that we're in a big city, and I don't know that it's anything specific, but for early uh, cityscape, not terrible. It works. I've certainly seen worse. Looking down on the rooftop of a building, so we've got little tough. The main figure is here. He's standing on the ledge of this building. The perspective is a little goofy. I'm using rulers, but I'm definitely freehanding this perspective. This is a tough perspective, right? So you're top down, but you don't want to have everything flat. You need to show like, right. So this is a wall, and these are windows in the wall, but they're kind of flattened out a little bit. So again, not a bad attempt. It would, what you would want to do is maybe do, what I've learned subsequently is you do a grid. You figure out your horizon line and your points of your perspective, and you make a grid that shows how things would fade off into the distance as you're doing the right perspective, the correct perspective. At this point in time, it's one of the hardest things. Perspective is one of the harder skill sets to learn, in my opinion, in drawing comics. And I just wasn't not quite there yet. Still a lot to go. We've got our police officers, pretty cartoony police officers. Interesting. I made some choices in terms of the shading, like on their hat, right? So the brim of the hat is supposed to be black. You've got some shine here. So that would tell me, right? And we've got shadows on this side. The light is coming from here, but we don't really see any shading on their bodies. A little bit here and there. But really like this collar could really, the tie would be showing, especially as it's blowing out from underneath, there would be some shading. You can see I wanted to make the tie black, and I didn't understand or figure how could I show a shadow underneath something that's black, where I could have done it maybe with cross hatching, or you can do what's called a halo. You can put a white line inside the border of that tie, because some light's hitting it. It's not going to be solid black, but yeah, could have done more with shading on the figures there. But okay, not bad. We get where they're coming from. Different characters, big guy, different size, different shape face, mustache, skinny guy. I'm cool with that. We see that here's our character who was on the ledge. He's got the coat. He's standing there. All the little X's, for anybody who doesn't know what that means, is that would be filled in with solid black. So he's looking out into just this black night, black stars. There's no background. These would all be black, but there is some pencil lead that I put down lightly, but this is to tell somebody if they were going to ink it, hey, fill that in solid black. The perspective on the gun, again, like a little wonky, doesn't quite go down to the right shape, but trying, taking an attempt to show it in space, that it's closer to you here and further away from you here as the cop points it at the guy. The face of the guy is you can see he's determined. You can see he's got some sort of like a costume on under this coat, right? There's a note here. It says panel is all color effects. So what was supposed to be happening is this is supposed to look kind of like, a photo where you see at night and it's just taillights of cars and, color streams of light as traffic moves through a city at night. That's, I believe, what was supposed to be happening there. And then silhouette of the guy, all in black, which means that this background behind him would have to be a different color. Again, maybe a dark blue to show night or something of that effect. Yeah. So overall, as a page, not too bad. This establishing shot of the cityscape, again, I talked about how it's a little flat to me. Could have been a little bit, the buildings could have been a little smaller to make it seem bigger, like a bigger city, right? Maybe a smidge. Again, getting kind of a little picky there. Also, again, this is from the script, so if at this point, if the writer said, "Hey, this is an aerial shot from far away, up above, and the guy's on the ledge," that's what I was, that's what I was drawing. I wasn't going to argue that, man, maybe there's a better way to tell that story, right? Because this guy gets lost. It's hard to see him on the ledge. Yeah, otherwise, not too bad. Just there's not a lot of consistency with the shading at this point. That could have been a little better, but overall, technically not too bad. This panel gutter, I talked a lot about these gutters. So you have the spaces between the panels, and as you reduce it down to be an actual comic book, those are going to get slightly smaller. To be honest, to this day, I don't think I've ever seen any kind of definitive answer on how big should this space be between your panels. I think it is completely arbitrary. And maybe there's somebody who has a lot more experience than me that will tell me, no, you have to do, it has to be 1/16 of an inch. I don't know. I've tried a million different ways. I've done it different ways depending on the page, and I've never had it not work. So the only thing I would say at this point is these are a little bit big. This gutter here, this gutter here, this one. These are a little bit large. Could have adjusted that to make some difference, and maybe in with those space kind of break up this very monotonous boom, 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 boom sequence of panels. Grid work is a little dull for the reader. There are more interesting ways that you could tell this story at this point. But again, that's where it is. Okay. Here's something, so this page is laid out a little differently. We have the figure here. He's standing, right? So he's gotten over, there's bars between the rooftop and the ledge, and he's on the other side of those bars. That's kind of what we were establishing through this whole first page. And then he is looking, he's got this mask that he wears. We see his reflection in this mask as he's holding it. He's going to put it on, and then the cops get around to get him, and he jumps off the building. And as he's falling, he sheds the overcoat, and we see he's got this costume on underneath. So lots of stuff going on here. So first of all, the building and this perspective of this up shot on the building, pretty good. I like it. Everything is going to the same spot. So I at least knew that, right? You come up the brick and under the ledge, and then these lines all come up. The windows come up, the bars come up, the building above him goes up. That part I like. He does not. The figure is not in perspective. He looks like the building is like this, and he is out like this. So you could tell I tried. You can see under his chin, his head is smaller, but for whatever, I wasn't able to pull off a human figure in that same perspective. And I don't know if it's the chest part is really what is part of what gets me, where you wouldn't see the top of his feet, right? So you see like ankles and top of the feet like you normally would if you're looking straight or down. That part would be lost. So really, you wouldn't even really see his feet. He'd be lower on here, and yeah. So just couldn't quite pull that shot off yet. It's a tough angle to be fair, but yeah, doesn't work. He's really hanging in midair off that ledge. Here, the eyes are too close together. This eye needs to be further back over here. The nose needs to come out a little bit. With this angle, it needs to come out from the chin a little bit. And then cut in here, so that needs to be adjusted. But otherwise, not too bad in terms of the composition of the page and stuff, right? So boom, boom, boom. This trying to show the reflection in the mask. Again, trying to use sort of a perspective, right? His neck and chin and stuff is real thick, and this is thin as he's holding this shiny thing in front of him. Not too bad. The lighting here, at least on the hands, right? So this side is lit. This side of his thumb is lit. Yeah, not bad. And I don't know, everything is haloed. So this, I've drawn, you can see this outline around what would be the outside contour lines. And I think what I was doing is this shadow that I've drawn goes right to the edge of like his gloves and stuff. And if you're going to then put another color behind it, a dark color, like here I did it because this is supposed to be black and you don't want the shadows of the gloves and stuff to blend in. So you put this halo around the figure. Some people like it, some people don't. You can go to black so that he fades into the shadows, but it's not what we were going for. Realistically, what would have been better than instead of just doing a black background would be a background. Actually, like some buildings in the background and stuff would separate him out from that, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. This one, I don't mind if it's another color, but if it's a different color, again, like if you're going to do blue, dark blue, or dark green, or red, whatever you want to do, you don't need the halo around him. You don't need it. Interesting choice here. So we see the cops reaching to the ledge. This guy's freaking out. Oh my gosh, he's jumped. This guy he's the guy with the gun, and he's got to the ledge. He's looking over. The body language isn't too bad. I get what's going on. This guy is, I don't know if they're supposed to be like a Laurel and Hardy kind of duo, but to me, this is a very Laurel and Hardy expression with his hands up on his head, like, oh no. He could have, instead of standing, I could have had him in action, like trying to lunge or move toward the edge. Again, I don't know what the script said, but that doesn't mean that you can't make your own choices as an artist, or that I wouldn't do it different. Also, to be honest with you, you get the idea. Here's his feet, and you see the little bit of the coat, so what's happened. This guy has jumped off the ledge, especially, and then you see here he's falling. No problem there. But this could have been done differently, right? This could have been done as a down shot, so you would see the police from behind as they're reaching the ledge, and then see the guy over the edge. That might have been a better shot. This is, it doesn't have the motion or the action that I would like. Here he's falling. Not bad. Could have been centered better on the panel. There's no real reason to have all this space here. We know he's falling. The building is up. Building's perspective, not too bad. This one's weird. This one on the side. So this part, I figured out, okay, you put your vanishing point up here and everything goes like this. And then how do I do it for this one over here? And I don't know that these go to the same vanishing point. So this one wasn't quite there with this, especially seeing, on an edge. Like this should have been really cut down. And But again, A for effort, giving a tough angle a shot. I do question, we're going to see on the next page, but if I was just looking at this from a storytelling perspective, he's holding this mask. He's got the mask. He's looking at the mask. The mask seems to be very important. The mask is not here in this shot. Did he drop the mask? Is it not in his hand? When does he put the mask on? Should it have been on here? I don't know. We do get a good shot of the costume as he's falling. Okay, yeah. So the next page we see he's going to put the mask on. That's the key to this whole thing. So this guy has built a superhero suit to let him fly. And so as he's falling, and we have those speed lines showing that he's falling down, he takes the mask, and you can see it's got some material behind it, like a Spider-Man mask, if you will, and puts that over. So now he's still falling down, and then he hits the halo symbol on his costume. This would need to be done in color to show it light up or something like that, I think, in order for you to tell that he's actually pushed it and he's not just pointing to himself. I don't know how else I would do that. Maybe a little bing there, that I could have drawn in, but I think through color you would show that lit up. And then the wing mechanisms from the back of the costume pop out and then start to expand, all while he is falling. And there's a couple of things. Like I said, this I'm okay with this. He's pulling the mask on. Characters pulling masks on, it's a motion, and it shows great on TV or movies, but it's a little bit tougher in a drawing. But so I'm okay with that. I like this one. I like this shot a lot. You've got him, his head, the shoulders, the legs dangling out in perspective. The only thing I would say that I think I would do to make it better is this circle in the center could have been shrunk down, right? Because we have a lot of extra that we don't need. It's great. Really, I've rendered out the abs and the oblique muscles, and the shading on the costume is pretty good. But really, this is the key element, right? This is the important thing, is he's pushing the button. You've seen the costume a couple times. You know that there's this halo image. So it's not like we haven't seen it. So you don't have to establish where it is on his whole body. So this could be shrunk a little. This could be the focus of it. So more just like this, especially with the color lighting up. So I would move this figure down because I want to see those feet. I want to see this foot, this cut right here. The ankle is not good. I would move this down, and really, I think that would help emphasize that he's falling better. The lines are good, but having him lower in the page he's falling. Here with the back, I think it reads, because we've seen these elements on his back. We can tell it's his back, and that they're popping out. And then the wings. And then here, the wings are what's important. So putting this at this point where he's falling to here doesn't make sense. He could be at this point on the page here and have these lines coming up from here. He's still falling down. He's starting to flatten out is the idea, right, with the wings. But he could be going more like this, and you'd see more of those wings. So this would be smaller. The figures move down, and then the wings are a much bigger part of the image. That would be my thoughts on what I would do differently there. But overall, not crazy, not terrible. Not a lot of expression, I'll say that. This guy is very stoic. He's falling off a building, and his expression doesn't really seem to change. But all right, maybe that's the character. And then right before he gets to the street, whoosh, he whooshes away. Yeah, not superb. We've got a news team, a news van, and a reporter and a cameraman, and she's bringing him a piece of pizza to eat. So one of the things I will say, you'll see this a lot. People ask me all the time about like what's the hardest thing to draw? What do you not like to draw when it comes to comics and stuff? And I used to say things like cities, cityscapes are very hard. Cars are very hard. Motorcycles, things like that. Nowadays, with with Google and image searches and the internet, you can find the images that you need for stuff. And if it's something like a car, man, I'm gonna put that into Photoshop, and I'm going to print out the picture of the car and the size and the angle I need, and I'm gonna use a light box, and I'm gonna trace a car. There's no, as long as it's if the script calls for a realistic car, if it's a sci-fi super car, crazy, space car, that's different. You can come up with that on your own. But if I want to reference like a BMW or a truck or whatever, and I'm gonna use real reference for that. So it's not as hard as it used to be. What really is difficult and causes me heartache are these crowd scenes, and just having to come up with all of the different people in crowd scenes to make it feel like it's a real crowd. And it's so hard to keep coming up with different people in different clothes, and what do they wear, and what are their hairstyles. And man, I find it so painstaking and time consuming. And you have to do it a lot. It's just something you have to do. Back to this. So specifically, boy, okay. This could be, this is supposed to be your big impact shot, and it just isn't. The figure in that particular flying pose is very weird. Like he's flying off to the side instead of, again, in perspective. Like think about Superman, where Superman, would go, he'd come at you, you would have his fist out, and the cape behind him and stuff. That's what I could have been doing here. I'm trying to show that motion. Instead of trying to do from side to side, I could have done from top to you, and the wings would have been spread out. The perspective would have, the foreshortening of the figure would have given you a better depth. The wings, again, because of the space, are bent at a weird angle here. Like, I don't know how he's flying. The main thing comes out, and then it bends down and around, almost like a scoop. Instead of gliding through, it's cut at a weird spot on the fingers. This is what you would refer to when I talk about tangents. In fact, I'm going to kind of zoom in the camera here on this, I think, is what I'm going to try to do. Because this is a really good example of a tangent. So I talk about them a lot. It's something you see in a lot of artwork, is these tangents from young. And when I say young artists, I just mean people who are learning. So let me see if we can hold that arrow. No. Let's see if we can focus a little bit. All right, that's as focused as we're going to get here. So what you see is, this is, let me see if I can get I don't want to draw on it, but I want to point with a pen. Okay. So this is the character's head. Here's his shoulder. Here's the bicep. And here's this piece of the wings coming out. And so this whole line just completely lines up and blends together. So you can't tell what's the shoulder, what's the wing part, where the head starts. This all gets lost. Now you can fix it with color, but again, if you're drawing in black and white and you're trying to show someone your work, if you can't express how that is in black and white, you can't rely on color to save you. So that's just a terrible tangent there. Okay, so that's that tangent there. The other thing you also have is, it's not as bad, but you have this here with the edge of the building, so it doesn't break it apart and really help emphasize that this is in front of this. You know, if it's at a steeper angle, if it sticks out further, or if it's just not there. I mean, it doesn't need to be there. The wing could just stretch off to the side, and that's okay. Yeah, so, and then I think if instead of doing it this way, where so much, I'm doing this motion line here. Oops. Here, let me zoom back out for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So I used up so much space to make this like motion to show that he's swooping, as opposed to just drawing him swooping, that now the figures have to be so much lower in the foreground, where if I did it in perspective where he's going more like this, you know, down and towards the camera, then these figures could have been bigger, taller, and filled in, and not just along the bottom edge here. So yeah, there's a lot that could be done here. This shot of the news van, not bad actually. I look back at this and go, wow, that's not so bad. There, you know, you got a curb with a drain and a sidewalk. Here's the door to the pizza place. You can see it says, kind of hints at pizza, but you've got, you know, the satellite on the top. There's you know, the two doors open. There's a camera. The guy's sitting there waiting. Overall, you know, in terms of a top shot of a news van, I think it reads news van. So not bad. Not sure about her. She could be more, you know, over here, so you'd see more of her. I don't know why I put her directly behind the door of the van. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If I showed her more here carrying the pizza, then when she gets here, instead of doing this sort of mid shot, now, you know, maybe I'm looking for room for some dialogue or whatever, but there's no background. So this space just becomes sort of wasted. Why don't I do a bigger close-up? Because you've seen enough of her over here to understand this is the same person, and then she could be a bigger close-up here, and you could really see the details of her hair and who she is, and you can still see she's carrying pizza. So, and as well, if you do that, so if I do a more of a tighter shot, this becomes a smaller panel, and maybe this becomes a little bigger to give a little more detail to the background and what's going on. So anyway, there's some options there as far as that panel goes. So that page could definitely be better. You can see here, so the pencils are a little bit lighter here. I don't know, I'm not sure 100% why I changed to a lighter pencil. Let me see if I can make a little adjustment so that it's a little, oops, let's go the other way. So let's see if you can see those pencils a little better. Okay. I'll kind of zoom a little here. So, camera guy, I like the character, the hat and the mustache. I think he's supposed to be, you see, he looks like the camera guy from Scream, right? I think is maybe where I'm going with these characters. Like, this is sort of the Courtney Cox weather person from Scream, maybe. And then because this guy looks like her camera guy that gets killed. Spoilers in the movie. They're having some kind of communication. He's doing something, and she then yells at him. Again, okay, not super What I should have done, so this is, I'm cool with this. I like this with the eating of the pizza and the cheese stretching and stuff. And then you see his arm and you see her. So she could be more centered, right? If we're going to overlap his arm and her, she could be more centered on the page. That would be fine, and do it that way. And then from here, we're going, this is like a beat. This is like a, so it's 1 moment, 2 moment, 3 moment, maybe like they're saying something. I don't want to go. Well, come on, you got to go. Or like, hey, I bought you pizza. Well, I don't care if you bought you. Hey, I bought you the pizza. Whatever she's yelling at him about. What I'm trying to do, you see, so here it's getting closer, 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 but this close-up isn't enough of a difference. So this could have started out zoomed out and slightly smaller, medium, more of a close-up, more of his face, her yelling, much tighter, so that it has more of a, where the camera's going as the dialogue is going on. So that's what could have been done there. Still have some hints of background of the van though, which is cool. So you got the back of the seat and they're sitting on the bumper, and so it's still in a space, which is good, even though a lot of it is going to be black backgrounds. There's also a lot of dialogue. That's one of the things that, I still to this day, I know I don't always do super at, which is I will draw the figures or the background and just not even think about it and just go, whatever. If the writer puts dialogue over my drawing, so be it, right? I don't care. That's what I'm going to, I'm just going to draw it and let him go for it. So here we have the next page. She's talking, and I don't remember the script, what the deal is, but obviously what happens is she's talking to the camera guy. The camera guy sees our hero here in his wing costume flying through a city behind her and is like, it drops his pizza, and then she turns and is like, holy shnikes, and then he grabs his camera. So part of this, this is a method that can work, meaning you have everything sort of the same size and space. So you have these 3 panels here, here, here. The figures aren't really moving through space, and the camera isn't really moving through space because it's supposed to be a moment in time. So the problem though is this is the same size as here. So to set up that they're in the city and there's people and he's going to be flying through, she should be much smaller or much bigger, one or the other, but not the same size as the cameraman in each of these shots, right? Because she's going to be in the foreground, we're going to be first, so we're coming from behind her shoulder and then she turns around. I feel like I would do, well, either way would work. You could do a very close up of her face in this panel, but then you're doing the same thing. So I think making her, the full figure here, small, you see her feet, the whole thing, she's standing on the sidewalk, and then here's the hero behind her. I think that would work. You could move her up onto again, on the sidewalk, you'd see the whole figure. And then you have plenty of room for dialogue and whatever she wants to say. Same thing here. Then you come from over her shoulder. And in this case, it's light. You can't see it. There's a little bit of her hair, and that's her shoulder. I would do more of her whole head here, maybe even to the point of overlapping the 2 figures a little bit, which does happen here, right? To show that she's in front more. That could be happening here, right? So more of her in the panel overlapping, giving you that sense of space. Okay, again, the eyes are a little too close. her other eye should be back over here, which means maybe the face should be pivoted out more so you see her eyes. Also, those are gigantic eyes. I mean, I know she's surprised, but the one thing I do really like here is the light. So what I've done is, as the camera guy has picked up his camera, it has a light built into it. And so the light is shining. So everything else is black, including her, because the light's behind her. So because the light's behind her, she becomes in silhouette. And so you're going to see like her, all I'm doing is like her lips and her teeth and the whites of her eyes. And then the rest of her is in silhouette with the halo to separate out from the background, because behind the light, when the light's in your eyes, behind the light is going to be dark as well. The only thing I should have done is much heavier cast shadows. This arm is going to cast a heavier shadow. The camera is going to cast a shadow. His head, this part of his body, certainly this shirt or whatever he's got over is going to cast a bigger shadow because it's such a strong light source. So more shadow on him to match. But I do like this idea of the light is coming from behind. Boom. It's going to shade everything out. All right. So here's, and maybe this is it. So here's what I was talking about previously. This, and unfortunately I did not pull it off well. So here we have him doing that zooming, coming down and up to the camera in that Superman perspective. Again, so that's what I was suggesting on an earlier panel when we first see the character. I think it could work so much better. The problem here is I didn't do it well. The chest and stuff is way too wide. The head is too small. This arm is too big. Cutting off the hand is no good. This fist and foreshortening. Let's do this a little bit. We'll zoom in on this guy a little bit so you can see what we're talking about. So yeah, not really super. Oops, dang, I keep adjusting the wrong way. Sorry about that. So I'm trying to make it darker so you can see the lines better, but this needs to come right if it's going out. Now he's going back up, but even, think about all the pictures you've ever seen of Superman where he's flying. That fist should be here, or that hand should be here, and then the rest of the arm is foreshortened behind it, right? So instead of up, it should be more like this, right? Something like this. The fist down low is fine, but here's the part of the problem. Realistically, this is a very basic thing. You typically you would alternate your sides. So what I mean is, if this arm is stretched out, then this leg is bent forward. This arm is bent, this leg is stretched out, or vice versa. You typically wouldn't crinkle up both sides of the same side, because it does this. It squishes this whole side of the body and lengthens this whole side of the body, and it becomes very awkward. So that is a little strange. Then again, more, move this up so you can see more crowd scene. And here I went crazy and drew a horse. Why I drew a mounted police horse is beyond me. I don't know if it works. This is, again, another tangent where, so I'll move it down here where you can see here. Here's the edge of a building. This is supposed to be the edge of a building. And so, and then there's a line here. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know if I was supposed to do the building going back into space and I didn't finish it, or what. I don't know. I'm not sure. But the way that this line comes down kind of cuts right down the back police officer on the horse. And it's kind of, to me, is a little weird. All you have to do is just move them out that far and you're done. But tried to really show a variety of people. Just a dude, guy in a suit, some person, woman and a kid, guy with a bandana, taxi, and then just a couple of just round figures that are nothing. Just So then you have here this insert panel of a house, which again, not sure how that's working out. For one, the one time of so far of this project where I'm doing these panel gutters, this is where you would need a thick panel gutter to really separate out this image from everything else. And I didn't. So it's kind of strange. And then the cropping is a little weird in terms of you don't see the whole house, right? So it's cropped off at parts here and here. The mailbox is cropped off. Just draw the whole mailbox. Why crop it right there? Seems odd to me. Clearly not working on perspective at all. This is, this goes back like this, and then these windows don't, and this roof line doesn't follow the perspective. So I don't know, but an attempt at a house, which I've always lived in a house, pretty much my whole life I've lived in a house. I should think I know what a house looks like. This is a messed up house. Also, like, just a black roof, like, draw the shingles. Like, houses have shingles. Just being lazy, I guess. And then what we have here, I'll zoom back down real quick, is we have people watching TV and on the news. So that's from the newscaster that we've seen. Here's that picture of our hero zooming over the crowd. And then you have the kids are sitting on the floor watching TV. The mom is behind them. For some reason, and I don't know if this was my attempt at what I thought I would do to show kids, like, boy, these kids are awfully young. Look at the kids. Oops, let's see. Try to focus that a little bit. They are super cartoony, like super cartoony kids. These don't look like real kids. It's crazy. Look at that. So, the eyes and the feet are just blobs. Like, why would they have sneakers, or whatever? Oh, I just realized that this is supposed to be like a Pikachu, I think is what, right? Without actually drawing Pikachu. I think it's supposed to be Pikachu. That's funny. My daughter now absolutely loves Pikachu. So they're watching the TV, and there are no children in the world that actually look like this. And then, especially because you go, look at the rest of the figures. Like, look at, let's see, like the mom is drawn relatively normal. And then we'll see, and then this other panel, the phone rings and a hand answers the phone, and we've got this guy. So I don't know. I mean, there's a little cartooniness to it. I would say this is, cartooniness in the way of comic books, but not, those other kids were coming straight out of like a Looney Tunes, and this guy looks real, and I'm assuming that's the dad. So I don't know what I was doing there. So he takes the call. He goes in the other room. He's upset about this news. Obviously, I think he's some sort of a government official that is trying to keep this all on the down low or something like that. So he's pretty upset. I like, again, so earlier I mentioned when the pizza and the camera guy and the newswoman there. Let me grab that real quick. Right. So they're having a conversation, and it goes from here to here to here. And what I'm saying is I didn't make the transition big enough. It didn't go from small to medium to large. It kind of goes from mostly medium to medium to medium. Here is a much, I pulled it off much better. So here you have the figure, and then it's here, and then the super close up. That works much better storytelling wise in regards to what I'm trying to pull off here. So much better. And then I think we get to, this is supposed to be flashback stuff of how this guy is originally trying to develop this flying suit. And so you see he's kind of skydiving, and he gets to his altitude, and he pulls, and his parachute thing comes out, but it's not supposed to be a regular parachute, and it deploys, and it almost pulls him backwards in half, and then he struggles and pulls it back, and it becomes this flying suit. And there we have a 4-star general who we will recognize is, I think, is supposed to be, right, is supposed to be this guy. And we can tell that by his hair. So so real quick, because this is going long again, I appreciate everybody taking their time and your patience. This does not work. This page in general, this whole sequence, it does not work. Fine, he's falling. You can see this sort of desert horizon line is what's supposed to be at the bottom of the page. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. If you can see it, he's too low. Like maybe what I should have done is an upshot of him falling, and then above you see clouds and maybe a plane where he's fallen out of the plane. That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm good with that. The hand, I don't need all this motion is what I was trying to do of him falling. We know he's falling. This again, I guess he's supposed to be looking at the altimeter as he's falling to go, okay, it's time to pull the cord. Again, you could do it so many other ways. I would do it now from the, show the back of his head, show the arm. So you see him, like this disconnected hand just doesn't do it for me. The figure, much smaller, shrink the figure, show him pulling this cord. This is, if there isn't motion lines, you don't know what's going on. This is, again, is terrible. This part is okay, I guess, in terms of a parachute is deploying. We kind of get what that's about, and it hasn't spread out all the way yet. But here, this is supposed to show it snapping into this special configuration that allows him to not just be a parachute, but to fly. It's almost like a glider parachute thing, which again, part of me goes, this is such a far jump from like superhero wings. I don't know how we get from here to there, but I wasn't writing the story. This should have been, if you don't want to show this of him capturing it and actually flying, you show the whole thing from the back, that whole triangle shape pop out. So you go from sort of a blobby shape to pop, it pops into that triangle shape. And then here of him trying to get broken in half, I don't have to show the background of that so much, make him bigger. So you see the struggle. It's pulling his whole body up and really maybe even further, maybe even bend him up further. The face just, again, I'm trying to do something I guess I didn't know how, in terms of the upshot with the nose and stuff is kind of weird. If it's really up, you'd see more of the bottom of his chin and stuff, so that doesn't really work. And then the success of him putting it, so there's supposed to be motion lines that, again, show him sort of going, he pulls his body back into shape and he zooms off, but you've got that same exact thing here. So maybe just show him straightening out. So again, much bigger in the panel to show him straightening out and then actually flying. And here's where, so I would do this bigger and this smaller, so you'd see more of the parachute shape and really get a sense that he's flying. This guy on the ground watching is okay, except it would not have killed me to actually look at a picture of binoculars. This is like the most cartoon binoculars ever. That's not what binoculars look like. It looks like Looney Tunes glasses. And give the guy a background. If this guy is supposed to be falling into the desert, now is where you draw the buttes and some cactus and stuff to show that he's actually in the desert, right? Like that's what could have been done there. This is the last page. So the guy has landed successfully. Our hero's landed successfully, and his partner, who's kind of this eccentric guy with kind of looking like a Guy Fieri a little bit, I guess, comes running out, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, man, we did it, and everything's cool." And he helps him. Now, again, this part's all right. I would do him bigger, right? There's no need to show all of that. You can show his head and the arms and the parachute. You don't have to have it that big. And then this now makes him look like there's more distance. Here, where he's helping him out, these guys need to be a little bit smaller because I've cut them off. He's at the bottom of his feet, and yet he's at the ankle. That's a bad cut right there. You don't want to crop your figures right there. That does not work. This is all right with him sort of chastising him, being like, "Hey, we weren't ready to do this. You're sort of rushing things along. You could have been killed." And him being happy and being like, "No way, man. It's all good. We did it." And so over the shoulder to look at him and doing that. This, again, very stiff. He's standing. He's super excited. And then you see in the next panel, he's like, "Oh, my back," because he got bent and then he had to pull it forward. So this whole thing of, "Oh, my back." This stuff is weird. Like, I get this. You could do this part. This sort of like line, like, I've never seen anything like that. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Just do this, right? Little lightning bolts in the back say, "My back hurts." You don't need whatever this other stuff is. He could be definitely more energetic here, which would lend you to being, okay, now I know why he threw his back out. He went one happiness too much. I don't know. You can tell as well, like, the difference between the city images and this backgrounds are very thin here, very sparse. I don't know if I was getting tired of drawing. I don't know if things were going south. I can tell you this is the last page that I drew. So being the last page that I drew, things must have been sort of heading south. I think what happened, the writer sort of disappeared. I didn't hear from him anymore, and the project sort of died on the vine, and which happened back then with a lot of stuff, a lot of these kinds of projects. So that's how it wrapped up. So there you go. So that's early 2000s, like I said, like 2000, 2001 pages. I've figured out the right paper, the right supplies. I've got some ideas of how to put a story together, how to work from a comic book script that somebody else has written. Obviously, there's times when looking at it as an artist now, I'd say I would make different choices. But then I think I was working very tight to what the writer was writing. Yeah, so it's moved ahead, and it's getting closer. This is still stuff that I wouldn't want published today. But I think I'm starting to, you can see a style is developing. I'm also working at this point, still not inking anything. These are pencils where the idea would be this would be given to an inker to finish these pages up and ink on top. So the pencils are very, very tight, almost, what you would, what we would refer to as finished pencils, where there isn't a lot of leeway for an inker, right? I've indicated a lot of stuff. Today, I would definitely be working differently as I ink my own work now. So the pencils are very, very different. But that being said, there's progress. And the next project after this, there's a few more pages, again, of this early 2000s, where I'm trying to find a writer partner via the internet, somebody who's got some scripts that I can work from and eventually see something get printed. So we've got another couple of projects that are sort of start and stops. And but these next ones are inked. So we'll be going over that and getting back to inking and sort of what am I doing with that technique and how have I come along there. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it very much. I hope there's information here that you're able to learn from, or if nothing else, it gave you some entertainment to look and laugh at. Man, this early stuff was rough. So thank you very much, and I'll talk to you on the next one.